go. It looks like we are live. Looks like we're live. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna.
I'm Jocelyn.
And
this is Buttons.
And this is Buttons. And it's Friday again. We made it. It's great to see you. Let's cheers, my dears. First thing, first order of importance here. I don't even want to tell you what I did today because it's such a joke. You're going to think there's something truly more wrong with me than you already thought. I had an issue yesterday where I was working on my presentation at the Alice Butler presentation for the New Hampshire Guild. I'll get it. Yep. And I forgot my book, which is my source at the studio. So I drove back to the studio this morning to get the book for finishing that presentation. And I was in such a hurry because I had to go get an ultrasound today. I've had tons of doctor stuff this week. The good news is I might live. It looks like I might live. It looks like it's nothing too serious. Jury's out, but we're going to wait and see. So I came back. I went to Bethany and I got all the things I needed to see me through this day, knowing I had cocktail night tonight and that I was looking at the Tamara Pavich book. And what are the chances? I left that book there. 2 different books, 2 different days. And I almost thought I just have to cancel cocktail time because it's like that t-shirt. I just can't with the Nike sign. But I ended up putting together what I think is going to be the best show ever with material I had and with what I could find on Diane Cox. Because tonight I really wanted to have a heavy Diane Cox night from Penzance, Cornwall, because she passed away in June of 2021. So get him away. All he wants is your pigs in a blanket. This is why Buttons is interested in being on camera, right? Because there's pigs in a blanket. She passed away in June of 2021. So I really wanted to look at her work because that Tamara Pavich book that we have giving away as a contest, we're giving 3 copies of it courtesy of Rug Cooking Magazine on Monday morning, this coming Monday, is very Diane heavy, right? There's lots of images from Diane and it's very hard to find images of Diane. There's a lot of blog spots and things like that, but there's no book about her at this point and it's such good stuff. So regardless, I was going to be very, very heavy on Diane tonight. And it turns out I am doing completely an all Diane night. And I don't even think I'm going to squeeze it in because there's so much. It's crazy. So it's going to be a great night. And I have other news for you too. Let's see who's here. Joss is going to come back. She wants to look at some of the images later and make her remarks. You know, great lover of art. Teresa, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. Great to see you. I'm sucking it down, right? Because I know I'm going to be talking for a while. Denise, good to see you. Happy Friday. Robin, happy Friday. Cheers, my dears. Cheers. Oh, I should put my socks on, Robin. What was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. I put on what I thought was a nice top. It's not a flattering top. And I've got the Minions pajamas on that are actually Teddy's from like 2 years ago.
Why are you wearing those?
Because I'm just such a dirtbag.
They're skin tight.
Yeah, they are. They're skin tight. They're super small. Karen, good evening in Colorado. Cheers, my dears. Linda Cass, I got your message. I'm so glad your stuff came. Fantastic. Cheers, my dears. Becky, Aileen, cheers, my dears. Good to see you both. Kirsten and Linda, happy cocktail night. It is our time. Isn't it nice when it's time? Let me get that little face on the camera, too. Let me get that little face. We're set up in a different part of the room tonight. It's just hard. It's hard to make these tough choices because I just don't feel like being at the studio when it's winter and I know there's nobody else in that building. It makes me real nervous, even when it's not super late, to be going out in the dark and everything. But as soon as we hit daylight savings, I'll probably be there running the shows again just because it's quiet. But this little one really wanted to participate tonight, so I know she's going to be a good, quiet girl.
Buttons wants to participate.
Well, he wants to participate in eating pigs.
Contest.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, happy Friday, Catalina. Great to see you. Annette, great to see you. Happy toddy time.
Can I have some of your water?
That's not water, it's wine.
Oh.
Big no. Although you would sleep well. Chrissy, ready for cocktail time. Great to see you. Great to see you. And look, Gami's on. She says she got her boozy blue drink. Oh, you got the blue carousel. And some popcorn. That's the dinner tonight. Good enough. Joy and the buttons. Good to see you. Hello in Port Charlotte, Florida. Oh, good to see you. Cindy is on. You just did the devil voice. You know that, right? Okay, you did that on purpose, right?
Yes.
Okay, we don't need a priest. It's going to be okay. Joan, good to see you. Thank you so much for all your help. This is crazy. It's so good. It's so good. Sandra, good to see you. You brought popcorn too. How funny. Dave, what have you got? Come on. That's all you're giving us. Good evening. Good evening. Tell us, are you having your beers and did you make some pizza or some soup or stew or something like that? What delicious thing have you got going on tonight? We've got to know. I had pizza, but I really didn't have time to eat it because we get right down to the minute with getting ready for tonight. It's not real. It's not real. Oh, let's keep an eye on this. Let's make sure. So, a few things that I want to talk about before we get going. Gami says hi to you. Your skateboard came. So I'll bring that home. I'll bring that home because finally this weekend I'm going. Yeah, I'm running. So tomorrow I'm doing a talk on Alice Butler, right? I brought out some more of the Alice Butlers. I traced some of them and got them going. So those are available online. They're almost all available, the Alice Butler designs. We've covered her many times in Coffee Time and Cocktail Time because I'm doing that talk tomorrow for the I think Woolen Magic, is it Woolen Magic, Joan? Guild in New Hampshire, the White Mountains Guild. So that'll be tomorrow morning. And that's been a big kind of deadline too. So I've been working on that, and in working on that, something really magical happened. I'm going to get you guys off camera for a minute because you're super irritating and distracting, although you're beautiful and I love you. Barbara, good to see you, and Jocelyn, and Buttons. Before I get to that, something truly magical happened. But before I get to that, before I forget...
Before I get to that,
lots of detours. This is the way I give directions too. So I was doing some dyeing this week because I had some orders that required some dyeing. When I put up the new website, it reset all the numbers, so people were able to order things accidentally that were out of stock. Isn't that a classic? Thank you, computer. Buttons, you're done. You're done. You're done. And I thought, you know what? It's March. Why not get going with dyeing the next swatch set? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not even spring yet, honey.
10 weeks.
So I got going with dyeing, and I thought, let's do a spring theme, but I didn't want to go full blast spring because I've done some of that before. In Vintage Tea Room, our last swatch set was very pastel driven. So I thought, let me do something that's very earthy with browns and greens and pinks and purples. Thinking about some pictures I've seen on Facebook of people posting. Try not to kick the table because it bounces everybody with the camera. So keep your legs, just like in the car, on the floor or on the chair, but not diagonal. So I don't know if this is going to work, I have to say. It's like a little too much again. So I thought, let's do something that maybe is Mother Nature related. And I came up with this set that is called Mother Nature's Robe. And it is these very colors. It's a set of 32, which is a large set. And this will be the first time that I break the set into 2 parts. So it will come as one swatch set with the mystery pattern that you don't know yet, but that's relevant, right, to spring and looking forward to spring. But it'll also be available if you don't want the large swatch set. It will also be available as halves. So I broke it into halves, and I'm going to show you the actual colors. I broke it into halves. Half of the colors are kind of on the ground, like flowers and crocuses and things that people are posting in those Facebook pictures, things that are coming up. And the other half of it is kind of in the air. The trees, the sort of canopy of trees, the leaves, the sky, all of those kinds of colors. See, this makes a sound, so you can't keep doing that.
Oh, okay.
Like, it sounds like a whoopee cushion, so you need to stop.
Whoopee cushion?
Yeah, just like a whoopee cushion. Exactly.
That sounds like a whoopee cushion.
So this is the set. It's probably terrible monitor color. It is terrible monitor colors. It doesn't look nearly as pretty as it is. It's super, super bright. But it goes somewhere up here. I think it breaks right here at the 16 for the colors on the ground, which are like the flower colors coming up. And then here it breaks into like sky, egg, tree, leafy canopy. There's a few in here that are reading on the monitor as blue, but they're actually more like teals. There's no true blues in here. This one here is the closest to being a blue, just this one. The rest are shades of green, kind of 1980s greens, like that teal, right?
Yeah,
you know, that peacock
teal.
No, it doesn't look pleasant on the monitor, but in the daylight it will.
Off the light.
And I already, no, don't. It won't come out at all if we turn off the light. They're already online. So in the thread in the description to this video that you're watching, get them out of here. The swatch set is already all up there. But if you're waiting for half of it, I haven't divided it yet. So just know that that's coming. Yeah. So the other thing that happened today that was just amazing. So just be quiet for a few minutes while I tell this story because I've already lost half of my brain cells. Thank you, Aileen. Oh, Jill, good to see you. Sorry, nothing tonight, Dave. You'll bake some banana bread tomorrow. Ooh, that sounds really with walnuts, of course, right?
Walnuts.
With walnuts, of course.
Ooh.
So this is what happened this weekend. This is just one of these Marvel things that I'm super excited about, and I'm going to switch screens with you because it's a heavy. Well, no, you're going to the Barcade this weekend. The Barcade is open for the first time in like years. It's an arcade that has like 200 vintage video games in it. And because it's a bar, it's in New Haven. Because it's a bar, only one time a month, as you would expect. During the day, they allow children to come and play the video games. So that is this weekend. So they are fired up for Barcade. But I was working on the Alice Butler thing, and this is what happened. This is one of these great stories, one of these great rabbit holes. Um, I was looking at pictures that Rob, who's the nephew, right? So Alice Butler and her son Vic designed. If you didn't catch these episodes of Coffee Time and Cocktail Time, look back on them. It's just a beautiful story about a mother and son. The article that I wrote about the Butlers will be coming out in the May issue of Rug Cooking Magazine. So that's coming up, in the free pattern that month will be a Butler pattern. It's the cool chattering birds. So I was working with Rob, and I said, I'm going to be going back and forth with you quite a bit in the next couple of days because I was putting together this great PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to present in the morning to the Guild in New Hampshire. So I was going back and forth with him and asking him questions that now we're getting to know each other a little better. I felt more comfortable asking like family questions and trying to get the family tree right in my head too, because it's important to me and I love this story. So I was looking through pictures that I had looked through 100 times. You're right on the edge. You're right on the edge. And I found one that I'm going to share with you that there's two pictures that he's given me that are pictures of Alice's rug hooking frame. And in my head, they were the same picture. And they're not the same picture. And it wasn't until I was sitting really giving good attention to detail that I went, wait a minute. I'm looking at a picture of Alice's frame, and the piece, if you know her work, called Daisies, was on it. And then I'm looking at this other piece, and there's a completely different rug in the beginning stages of being hooked on it. And I thought, I don't know that rug. And I went nuts going through that book that Vic and Rob wrote, right? The book on the Alice Butler rugs and wall hangings. And it was not in that book. And I know that that book is comprehensive and complete. So I immediately called Rob and said, what's going on with this picture? I'm sending you a picture. Check it out. I don't see this image anywhere. What's going on? And he immediately wrote back and said, oh my God, let me show you the image so you can enjoy this. Hey, Naomi. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring you right to the top. There we go. So this is the image. And I thought, that's not Daisy's. What is this image? So Rob said, give me a hot minute. I'm going to figure it out because this frame went to a different family member when Alice passed away in 1987. And when that happened, the fabric was still on it. And, when these things happen at these moments in life, everybody's thinking different things, and it's not an ideal time. And it got put away. It got put away somewhere, and it hasn't been looked at. And he ended up calling the family member who he knew they shipped the frame to in the 1980s. And she said, she was home, and she said, hang on a minute. I guess she went up in the attic or wherever the frame has been stored all this time. And wouldn't you know it, that rug is still on the frame. And Rob said it must have been the rug that Alice was working on when she passed away. So this will be the last, it sounds awful to say that, Alice Butler rug. I mean, unbelievable. So it was so surprising. Let me show you. I have a few images so far, and that family member I think is going to, let me put this one down, is going to complete it, and that will be exciting. So this is the rug. We're almost there, baby. This is the rug sort of lengthwise, and you can see this is an 80s rug, but it has that very 50s throwback if you did that designing MCM mid-century modern class with me, with that kind of starburst or atomic star with all of the balls at the end, right? Very, very, very cool design, very modern design. So this is what it looks like with a few close-ups, and he sent a bunch more pictures. But again, that family member is going to be finishing it and working on it. And you can see that it's signed HB, which means Hugo Butler. So that means that both, let me get rid of that and come back to you, both Alice and Vic worked on it. Vic designed it, Alice hooked it. So I thought, what an amazing thing. Detective Dog was on the job, and Rob was so excited. because he said, I just can't believe there was another rug. The whole family's so excited that it's still on there. It's wrapped on it and it's not facing out, so nobody thought anything about it, but it's been there the whole time. I mean, isn't that amazing? I'm super excited. Oh, Naomi, today you baked Pascha Easter bread. I saw that. I missed Ash Wednesday. I'm just such a disaster lately. I'll tell you, disastrous. But isn't that exciting news? I thought that was an amazing update. And as soon as that pattern is available and we have an image of that, I will add that to Ribbon Candy Hooking. If that turns out to be your favorite one, then that's great. Also this weekend, he sent me a ton of her needlework designs that I am converting into rug hooking designs because they're very different. I posted two of them, one of geese that she had put some color notes on, and one of what I think is an angelfish. Thought it was a clownfish. I'm not that good, but I think it was an angelfish. And she put color indications on it, so I kind of went with the colors that she had until Rob finds the finished needlepoint pieces. Because later in her life, she was still rug hooking, but she did a lot with needlepoint too. So it does look like a lovely design. I think it's super exciting. It is. Thank you. I felt like Sherlock. I really did. I just couldn't believe. I kept checking myself over and over because I was thinking, no, this can't be. They've been so thorough about recording all of these rugs, particularly since Vic died in November of this past year. But there was that one left. So it was exciting to be part of that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, my brain is screwed on. It's a rare thing, but when it happens, it's wonderful. So, tonight, because I forgot that book, it turned out to be an even better episode. I know that already, as long as we can keep things calm on the home front. Because I really got into this Diane Cox thing. And again, she passed away in June of 2021. And she was from Penzance, Cornwall, which is the tip of Cornwall in England. So the southwest coast, that's English Riviera country, right? That's Agatha Christie country. At least she had a house there, and a lot of her books are set there. Daphne du Maurier country, certainly, right? Frenchman's Creek and all that. Jamaica Inn. Beautiful part of the world. And Diane is known for being oh, good, Sandra, me too. A rag rugger. Now, we talk about this a lot. I'm not going to go off on a bender because there's so much content tonight. But, like most British people who participate in any form of rug making, they're very clear that they're rag ruggers. And they're very proud to be using recycled goods. We are very dependent on, in America, most of us are very dependent on goods that are bought from a store. And I'm a store, so I appreciate the sales. I really do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to keep going. And I do love dyeing, and I do love that part of it. But I think it's a wonderful thing to at least sometimes think about using recycled fabric. And do you know, in looking at blogs about Diane today, I saw that in England they seem to have an annual, if not, no, it can't be annual. It's like every so often, maybe it's like once a decade or something, but a whole year that the idea is that you don't buy, I mean, this isn't good for business, but that you don't buy clothing from the store and you just buy stuff. Because in England, if you've been, every little town has multiple charity shops and there's tons of beautiful used clothing that's right there. But they have this every so often, this real push and drive to get people to not be shopping in new clothing stores, but used clothing stores, like for the environment, being eco-friendly, green, thoughtful, mindful, and all of that. So Diane was very interested in that because she was very about recycling and repurposing, and her work really, she only used recycled, refound, kind of that sort of thing, never new materials. So that's a big part of the thrust of her work and the overarching look of her work. So I went down the rabbit hole. I found a great blog that is called The Ragged Life, right? So if you look up The Ragged Life, Diane, Diane, Cox, Cox, you will find this beautiful interview with her. I don't have the whole thing here, but I have parts of it, and I'm using it as a skeleton to walk us through some of her work. Now, again, I forgot that Tamara Pavich book, which is our giveaway book for Monday, called Rug Hooking Journeys. And there is a ton of different information in that book about Diane Cox. So if you're interested in having that, as you should if you don't, that video is also listed, the link to it, in this video that you're currently watching in the description. Make sure you go on to that other video later and make the comment that you're asked to make so that you are automatically entered and have a chance of winning the Tamara Pavich book that will walk you through many wonderful artists, including Diane Cox, and heavily Diane Cox. So let's just get going with this. And I'm going to be looking at the thread too if you have questions. I've been doing a lot of reading today on this. As soon as I finished Alice Butler, I switched gears and I started working on this. So this is an interview on the Ragged Life blog, where the interviewer says, and here we're going to get going, Joss.
Would you like a piece of my toast?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I'm good. I have like 17 pieces of pizza right there. The interviewer says, "Hi, Diane. Would you mind telling us a little about yourself and your background, please?" And Diane answered, "Yeah, I am a rag rugger living in Penzance at the far end of Cornwall, and I have been making rugs for almost 30 years. I was a primary school teacher, but after having cancer many years ago, I took early retirement, and hooking rugs was part of my recovery. I've always loved textiles, always sewn and knitted, and I could remember women in my family making rugs when I was a child in North Yorkshire." So this conversation will loop into past episodes I've done on past Friday nights. We looked at a different British rag rugs book, and we talked about like the mining communities in the north of England and how proddy was a very big thing with them. Many forms, but a lot of proddy. So this is part of her heritage, right? So let's get right into looking at some of her images, and I'm going to kind of hello, April. I'm going to kind of sprinkle in. Let me show you first a picture of Diane, who is so beautiful, so beautiful. Such an eclectic, the pictures I see of the interiors of her house are so eclectic, and she is just gorgeous. I love all those mugs hanging there. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that atmospheric?
Yeah, it's nice.
Isn't it? So that
is... April, it's almost your month.
April, it is almost your month, Joss says. Very witty. Very good. Now, yeah, this is the piece I used for the thumbnail tonight. Yep, this is, there's not names for all of her pieces. She refers to them, but she doesn't always name them from what I can see. And with this piece, the way she described it was by saying this: "Our group decided to hook ourselves in a very free way to capture the essence of ourselves rather than what we really looked like. And funnily enough, we all ended up with our much younger selves. This is me when I was a student, floating about in long dresses and going to festivals a lot. I didn't plan it. She just emerged as I was hooking." I think this is so beautiful. She's got like a little pouch around her neck. She's got a pin. Isn't that beautiful? It is a cozy spot. A pin that says like love, not war. That's pretty relevant right now.
I love the design of 3D flowers. To see it in a portrait of a girl with 3D flowers in her hair. I just love it, and I think it's very unique and very artsy.
It is. It's so artsy, well spoken. Really beautiful. So we always talk about proddy, and I always say, most commonly we see proddy as flowers and leaves and things. I have to say, I have not yet seen an example. These are flowers, right? But they're in her hair. This is smart. This is a really smart use of proddy, isn't it? This is framed. So Nancy, hello. Yeah, don't do that, honey. You're shaking the table. So this is framed. So I want to point out also that with the British tradition, and I think more aligned with the Canadian tradition than with the American tradition, people are, you scoot closer if you want to be, and she's having her dinner, people are a lot less precious about their work. So in other words, you're going to see tonight, there's quite a few ways that she is mounting and framing her work, including like dummy boards and just banging it into a frame. They are not as sort of maniacal as we are about having everything be just sew and finishing stuff. She is much more likely to frame it in a very odd, irregular kind of way, or bang it into a frame, leave it unfinished. She's much more likely to do that than she is to agonize on which of the finishes for the edges is the most appropriate or the prettiest. So it's just one of those things to look for tonight. That's a great remark, and it's a great thing for us to be looking after. So I'm going to go a little bit fast, but make sure you stop me if you want to go back. And, let's come back here and say, let's do one more question. The interviewer said, "And how did you get into rag rugging?" And Diane answered, "When I began hooking in earnest, it was because I desperately wanted a bright hearth rug for a Victorian terrace house that I had just moved into. I absolutely loved that rug. It lasted years through teenagers and several animals, and was washed and washed. Eventually, the hessian, which is burlap, rotted. But I saved the strips of fabric, and I have reused them in other projects." So isn't that interesting? There's much more. I think when you're coming from the tradition of proddy and, hold on one second, and very utilitarian rugs, that you are not feeling precious about your rug, even if it's pictorial, right? Because Diane just did not feel that way. She felt like served its purpose. Let's save the material. On to the next. What were you going to say?
Can I have some more toast?
Yeah, but I'm running a show, so maybe Papa will do that. Sorry, that's funny. Um, so let's move on from there and look at this image. This is a great image as well. Now, what's interesting about this is one of her pieces. She obviously, starting from when she's saying in earnest, she started rug hooking. She was using it originally to sort of recover in a convalescent situation, right? But she does continue to use it through her life to resolve problems and emotions that are unresolved. So when she did this piece, if you notice, there's a lot about lost eyesight in it, right? She made this piece because one night, this is a true story, her husband lost his sight in one eye. Like he woke up and it was no longer there, just in one eye. So, as you can imagine, that was very emotional and jarring. Hello, Cindy. And she stitched most of this, which is part hooked, part collage. Her usual thing, patching things, using quilting techniques, sewing techniques. She stitched most of it in the eye hospital. So a classic Diane way of resolve in working through something that is hard to handle. So let's come back here. We'll come back for another question. Let me put that one back and come back to you. So the next question was, what do you enjoy the most about rag rugging? And she said, what I love most about rag rugging is making something beautiful from discarded clothing, the way you can really lose yourself in it, and also the friendships that are made through hooking together in groups. And that is so nice because, you know, there are a ton of groups in England. There's a lot in London, but there's a lot in other places too where people get together. There's a few sort of kingpins in the hooking rug making world. Certainly Diane was one, Heather Ritchie. There's a handful of people who, Ali Richter, is it Richter, Richter? Big names that come up again and again and again who work in textile arts with a crossover to hooking and rug making, who are really big players. But there are a lot of other people doing it because in the US, right, we had a tradition of people doing it in the 19th century. And then when we hit the 20th century and we hit the Great Depression, came out of that, hit a world war, came out of that, hit a second world war, came out of that, the pendulum just kept swinging. And the trend was on and off for doing something that really qualifies as a thrift craft, like making a rug, right? So there were so many times in American history where it just didn't make sense to do it. It was not fashionable. It was not in vogue. Why would you do it? And we didn't maintain as a country, I think. I mean, there are exceptional families who have been true to their roots and to their ancestors throughout. But most people work in terms of trends and what they're interested in and what they see and what inspires them, as probably you should. But in England, they have sort of much more, from what I've read, a feeling of wanting to continue rug hooking, and they've never stopped in between from those first days, right? Because it's been in the family the whole time. So it's interesting. It's definitely a marked difference, and I would love to see somebody do a piece of research and scholarship on this subject, a comparison. One is not better than the other. It's just very different, and it's very obviously different. It would be interesting to sort of track and trace the sources that made it so, right? I find it historically interesting. Did she do fabric collage on top of the hooking? That's a great question. Catalina, she did both. So she has situations where she has hooked, and she hooks quite high sometimes. She will sometimes apply something hand sewn to the top of it, and sometimes she will stitch right down on the backing fabric, which for her is always burlap, always, and then hook around it. So she does both, and it can be done both ways. Both ways work really well. So let's see. Here's another question. Do you use old clothing for your rag rugs, or have you to find some other way of sourcing your materials? And she answered, I always use recycled fabrics for my rugs. The amount of clothing that goes into landfill is terrible, and we should all be reusing what we have as much as possible. Having collected for years, I'm pretty sure that I won't ever need to source any more. Luckily, I have a studio to keep in all the fabrics because they take up a lot of space. Or we all know that story, right? I'm going to do some gallery stuff in a minute. Thumbs up. That's right. Thanks, Mom. Please give the thumbs up. Lorraine says, hi from Whidbey Island, Washington. Fantastic. Great to see you, Lorraine. So happy you're there. So the next question was, are there any fabrics that you particularly enjoy working with? And more importantly, are there any fabrics that you avoid? And she answered, I love using wool and woolen mixes in prati mats old blankets, scarves, felted jumpers, meaning sweaters and coats, because they feel so lovely for bare feet on bedside mats. But I'll use almost anything in my hooked pieces, anything with a bit of stretch. I avoid denim and heavier curtaining, like curtain material, as they are too hard for me to pull through the Hessian. And that would be the case for all of us, because truly Hessian is the loosest and most forgiving backing, with the exception of latch hook backing, which of course you can also hook into. So she avoids denim and curtain material, like upholstery materials, right? Having said that, I know someone who made a denim stair runner, which was very hard wearing. I also love to use patterned fabrics because you never know how the pattern will hook, and you can have wonderful surprises. So interesting. You know, and everybody will have a different answer to that. Diane's answer is not the right answer. It's the right answer for Diane, right? We all feel differently about different fabrics. I tend to agree with her, but I have also seen people hooking with denim and enjoying it immensely. I am always on my soapbox about hooking into latch material, but I think it's a great solution for problematic materials like denim, right? I would much sooner hook denim in think of all the colors of denim that you could get into latch hook backing than I would through a cloth backing, because like Diane said, it's just too much to pull it through. It's going to be too much fast too on your hands. So let's see, let's come back here and look at some more of her images. Let's look at this one. So this is a really cool image, a lady with a clay pipe. And Diane said this was inspired by all the bits, this is so cool, all the bits of clay pipe I find in the fields, and imagining an old lady contemplating her long life. So this is done a lot in hooking. The garment on the lady is done, yeah, Cindy, it would be a super sturdy rug working in denim, because think about how like dungarees and jeans are. They last like literally forever, unless you do something really crazy like cut the knee out. But I love the idea of her walking through these fields in England, and you know, whether metal detecting, that's such a big thing right now, isn't it? Looking for little bits and pieces and finding all these bits of clay from pipes, because smoking clay pipes was a huge thing, like, you know, to this day. So interesting that she would think that, and she is such sort of feminist. She does so much with rugs about women, on women, women's lives and women's stories. It's not surprising at all to me that she would choose to show a woman smoking a clay pipe, which of course they did in the Victorian era. You see tons of photos of women smoking pipes, but really different, really beautiful. And Catalina, to your question, in this one, I can't see it close enough. I'm seeing it smaller, but it certainly looks to me like she took a quilt that was already made and put it right down, sewed it right down, probably like a little running stitch or whip stitch, right on, attached it to the backing fabric, the burlap, and then hooked around it. That would make the most sense, I think, and she was such a pro. Yeah?
Are you sure you don't want to have this food bite? I tried to cook it super professional. After I put the butter on it, I let it in the toaster for like 10 seconds.
All right, it's a super professional piece of toast,
yes.
huh? Mm. You put Mrs. Dash on it, sorry.
What? What does that mean?
Mrs. Dash. I taste Mrs. Dash. It's one of the spices.
Oh.
All right. Ooh, let me get rid of Lady with Clay Pipe.
Italian spices.
Very nice. Very nice. Let me try to open this one. This is a really cool one too. And again, you see the patchwork. Very nice, Jess. The patchwork cups kind of toppling, juggling. This is a funny one because all she said about this piece was, this is the entire quote for it. She said, "Those moments when you wonder if you can cope with everything you're doing." Teddy, I'm live. So she's doing kind of like the three-ring circus juggling act, right? The woman who's got just way too much going on, too much on her shoulders. Everything's about to topple over. Kind of a metaphor rug, isn't it? Really, really pretty. I like the color of the woman's hair, too. These are so different. And are you noticing that Diane uses a lot of fancy fibers, like around the edges of kind of eyelash and fluffy stuff? It's so different. So different. Let's look at one more image before we switch back over. I'm just fooling around with, you know me, with this program. It's not easy. Oh, shut up, buttons. All right. Oh, wait a minute. I wanted to save those for later. Let me save those. Buttons! All right. This is the one I meant to show you. Granny Angel. This one is just extraordinary. I wish I had taken closer close-ups of it. Sorry, I didn't. I did with some later ones. So when she made this one called Granny Angel, so this is more of like a shaped piece. It's more of like a dummy board thing. She said, I have 4 grandchildren, and 3 of them arrived the same year. So my life was filled with granny-ness. So this is how she was feeling at that time. Um, sorry, I'm just indicating there's too much going around me. She's got this hooked on top. She's got wings hooked on top. She's got the body of it going down into the dress with all of these pockets that she's appliqued on from different pieces of quilted fabric, kind of hankies, embroidered hankies and embroidered tablecloths. Um, just beautiful. The face is very well articulated. As usual with Diane's pieces, it's so much color. It's so much patterning. Remember what the inside of her house looked like. The high heel shoes, the colorful socks. I mean, it's just her. This is just the style she worked in. This is the way she just loved colors, loved patterns. Oh, Crafters Grimoire, good to see you. Oh, excellent. Oh, excellent. How fun. I love this too, Mom. This is just, I mean, it's just beautiful. And when you think about it, the position of the body, it's very different, isn't it? It's like if you were working, for, as many people do, if you were working from, who said recently that they work from the little mannequins? Who was that? Gosh, it was somebody that we were talking to, or we were somewhere, and someone said they work from those little mannequins. Maybe I was working on the book, actually. If you worked from those little wooden mannequins, as so many people do to get your figures in place, this would be a hard one to do. I'm sure that Diane didn't, because she's always got the posture of her characters. I don't want to say unnatural, but very artistically posed, right? Really out of line, and it creates a lot of action, movement, interest. It creates a lot of expression, right? There's expression in the face, but the way the body is like tipped or tilted or jointed or hunched really creates more expression. It's almost like this character is partially seated, and she's got her hands in those 2 pockets, which is interesting too, right? The hands disappear right into those pockets. Really nice. So let's see. Let me come back to you for a minute. I'm going to try to keep up to date here with our pictures. So the next question that was put to Diane was this. Are any of the ladies in your pieces inspired by real people? And she said, many of my rugs are inspired by real people, usually women, but the one I'm most proud of is called The Day the Buzzard Came. Right?
Do you have that one on there?
I do.
See it.
I have that one.
Yay.
The Day the Buzzard Came. It's a bit of a sad one because it refers to actually the day that her dad died. So the day the buzzard came, I'm going to take a little detour here. She said it's incredibly meaningful for her because it's the day her dad died. I was doing a little bit of a rabbit hole search for this. I'm going to show you the image for this image. And it turns out that Rug Hooking Magazine, their June, July, August issue in 2018, they covered this exact piece. It was just a short article just on this one piece of Diane's. So I'm going to pull up the image, and then I'm going to read to you an excerpt from Rug Hooking Magazine said, June, July, August 2018 on this exact piece, right? Because it's very, very thorough. Let me see. Lady Clay Pipe, Granny Angel. Oh, no, don't tell me. All right. I think we have a problem. I think I didn't put that one in. Is that even possible? Granny Angel. We're going to have to come back to that. That is really bad. No, here it is. Here it is. Oh my gosh, I scared myself. It's just out of line. There we go. So that's what it looks like, Joss. And you see it's called The Day the Buzzard Came. And, you know, there's a lot of indications. It's interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of indications in Diane's work. Superstitions, references to superstitions, things like that. And I think the buzzard is probably one of those, like the buzzard coming into view while she's putting the laundry up on the line. Really evocative image. And she said, I was brought up in North Yorkshire, England in the 1950s, and my early years were filled with textiles. All the females in my family around me were sewers and knitters. Waste not, want not was still the maxim in those days. Garments were taken apart and made into something else, perhaps coats for the children, or perhaps we made one dress from 2 worn ones. It was always fascinating to me as a child, observing all of those busy fingers deftly creating wonderful new clothes from those seemingly worn out garments. I learned all these things at a very early age, and I'm glad I did. Although I never made a rug in those days, I watched my mother and my grandmother make them. Stone floors and linoleum were cold, our hooked and prodded rugs were both practical and, more importantly, warm and cozy. It always seemed to me that making rugs was a soothing occupation, a stolen time, when women could chat and not have to think too much. Yet it was much more than that. My father would often say little girls should be seen and not heard. I didn't agree with that, but I obeyed, as we did in those days. Sitting quietly in a corner, however, making myself as invisible as possible, I observed the women's expressions and gestures while I listened intently to snippets of tales full of intrigue and excitement. I was enthralled by these conversations about real-life happenings and tragedies, triumphs, mysteries, and secrets. The seeds of my obsession with hooking women probably began then, but it was only later in life that I had the time to act on it. Researching the female line in my family tree added to my fascination. The unsung lives of ordinary women, so many untold stories, women's lives over the centuries fascinate me because so many in the past did not have a voice. So much was not recorded, deemed less important than the lives of men. Many of my ancestors had worked in the Lancashire cotton mills. It was a hard life, and I desperately wanted to give these women voices, to tell their stories, and also to tell some of my own. Walking the dogs through the daffodil fields behind my cottage in Penzance, Cornwall, is when I work on ideas and memories, mulling them over until I have a clear picture in my mind. This can take weeks, if not months. Creativity cannot be rushed. So it doesn't refer directly to this piece. I hadn't read it yet, but it is quite beautiful. And you know, I think I am going to show you the Proddy rug because it does have a bit of a superstition attached to it. There's only 2 Proddy rugs that I could find that were Diane's. So let me do that now. Let me back up just a little bit and see if we can do that. I've got a huge list of rugs to show you today. So, oh, you know what? I got to put that one down first. Bear with me. You know me, technical wizard here. And we're getting there. All right, here we go. Couple of Proddy. So these were early on in that blog, A Ragged Life. These are 2 that Diane did, and it's very traditional to this day for English people to do Proddy, right? It's a huge thing. So I won't get into it now because we talk about it a lot, and I will certainly talk about it again. But Proddy is pushing through fabric with a prodding tool, right? Either pushing it from behind, so working in reverse, or pulling it up with a spring tool or with a rug hook. Regardless, you are pulling very pixelated pieces through and you're getting a very shaggy image. Now, what's interesting to me is that both of these rugs of Diane's, both of these Proddy rugs, and incidentally, she said, as soon as it gets to be cold and it gets to be winter, she starts working on Proddy. She switches to Proddy. So this is just one of these beautiful traditions that she had and that she kept. It must have been a thing, one of those seasonal cycle things where, you know, you hit a certain temperature and you start to switch what you do, your behaviors, your hobbies, and she would switch to Proddy. So she did these 2 rugs, and they both have diamonds in the center that have some red in them. And this is interesting because in many parts of England, there is a superstition that if you put like a rug with a red diamond outside, it repels the devil. So just another one of these kind of superstitions, like the buzzard, you know, the buzzard coming by with the news. We have these, of course, in the U.S. too. Telling the bees is a big one in New England. When someone dies, you have to go. If you keep bees, you have to go tell the bees. Otherwise, they just ruin your life. But interesting to think about how superstitions are woven into the designs of rugs, even a Proddy rug, which you would argue doesn't have much of a design. They're typically geometric and very, very plain. But that red triangle, if you look back on the Proddy rugs that you've seen, or if you file that, and when you see Proddy rugs in the future, if they have a red diamond, it's because of that tradition of repelling the devil. And it's very, very common to this day. The seeing eye, exactly. Something like that. It's very meaningful. Very pointed, very meaningful. So, and then the next question to Diane was, which is your favorite rug that you've made and why? And she said her favorite rug is this wonderful piece that's called Waiting. I'm going to show that to you. It is gorgeous. Let me see. Somehow my rugs are out of order. I don't know how this happened because I put them in exactly, painfully, the right order. Let me see. Joss, tell me if you see Waiting. Yeah, there it is. It's a lot. There it is. We're getting there. There we go. So this is her favorite piece. She said it hangs next to me, next to the bed, so she can see it all, all the time whenever she's in bed, when she wakes up. She said when she was looking at it, she would often see different emotions. Joan says, can it repel in-laws? Maybe you have to create a different symbol for that. That's loaded, isn't it?
What does
So,
that mean?
we'll talk about that later. So, so she said she loved this because she saw different expressions in the face. And when I think about it, I'm looking at this rug too and thinking there is some sadness, there's some wisdom, there's some melancholy. It's a bit of a sexy face too, made up a little bit, very wistful. I think all of us probably could see something different in it. I love this piece. I love the cloth that's around her head. I love those flower pots, right? They have like, it's either printed fabric or there's some embroidered stuff going on there. Looks like she's done something with Prati flowers again. But again, mixing those patterns. Look at how many patterns are in this piece. It's just beautiful. I love the colors that she uses in the skin. This one is a little toward the gray beige, right? And usually that bothers me, but with this it doesn't, because you can see it's kind of indicating age, and you can see all that makeup on her, which is so pretty. I mean, her face looks so pretty. She looks like an older woman that is made up beautifully, and you wonder what the rest of the story is. It is very Matisse, Karen. And of course, whenever you layer patterns like this, it can't fail to be very Matisse. It's so, or Klimt, right? It's so dynamic, and it's so pretty. And somehow, the chaos of those mixed patterns somehow still looks good, right? It kind of neutralizes. It's almost like a double negative, right? It works. I can't say why it works technically, but it does truly work. She did amazing faces, Cindy. Amazing. Now, let me go back to her next question. I'm going to put this one down. Love this woman. It's all in the eyes. It's so true. Beautiful eyes with the heavy eyelid, right? How beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Reminds me of like an old kind of Norma Desmond looking movie star, So the next question that she was asked was, are there any artists? Now, this is where I really went down a bad rabbit hole, and I hope that you're okay with this because I went crazy. Are there any artists, designers who you're inspired by? And she rattled off a list of artists. Some of them I didn't know at all. Some of them I know and love. And I thought, this is a rug hooking show, but what a great opportunity for us to look at the artist's work that she named, right? I'm going to show you examples of all of the artists that she named, and it might be that you don't know all of these artists, and you are going to be blown away because having looked at some of Diane's work, you're going to say to yourself, I can exactly see why she loved these artists, right? Because it's all right there. So the artists who she named were, Jossie, can you put this in the other room? Because Buttons is like losing his mind, like he's flipped his flipper. Okay, Vanessa Bell, Laura Knight, who's actually Dame Laura Knight, Evelyn Dunbar, Jenny Jones, contemporary, Richard Adams, contemporary, and Dee Nickerson. Now, if you know any of those names, huge thumbs up, because these are difficult. These are all British artists, and these are not, at least for Americans, these are not names that we know all the time, right? This is like going to school specifically for art, kind of like niche. This is a bit far out. Wait until you see this work. Gail, good morning. How are you? Sun is up, I hope. Good morning. You love this woman. Oh, that's okay, Doreen. We're just getting warmed up. Doreen, just to put this in context, we're about to look at the art that inspired Diane Cox. And it's a lot. I went crazy. So I'm going to flip through these real fast like a slideshow because I went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Let's come over here. Now, let me come to, let's see. First, hang on. All right, here we go. So we're going to start with Vanessa Bell. Just stop. So this is a figure by Vanessa Bell, right? So just to let you know, Vanessa Bell is one of the Bloomsbury artists, if you've heard that term, a sort of collection, a group of artists who all knew each other very well, very kind of cross-pollinated ideas, inspiration, talent, romantic interest, everything. But she was a painter she was born 1876 and died in 1961. She was a painter, an interior designer, very, very, very well-known artist. So this is a figure by Vanessa Bell. Let's look at another Vanessa Bell. This is called Still Life with Flowers. Beautiful. She worked in many mediums too. This one is called Chrysanthemums. kind of whizzing through, and it's given me a minute to fool around with my screen. This one is my favorite. This is called Schoolroom. So you can see she worked in many different styles. She covered many subjects. So beautiful, right? So beautiful. This is a watercolor, maybe a little bit of pen and ink in there. Just exceptional. But you can see with the lines, with the style, how this would be something that Diane would have absolutely loved, right? So now let's move on to the next artist that she names, who's Laura Knight, who becomes Dame Laura Knight. Now her work is very, very different, but so beautiful. Now it's worth saying, just in case you fall in love with any of these images, you know, keep these names, write them down, look them up later, because all of these artists that we're naming and looking at tonight that were Diane's inspiration are very important artists, and they're well worth looking at. So Dame Laura Knight is, the years of her life, 1877 to 1970, she is associated with the golden age of illustration, right, which wasn't a national thing. It wasn't an English thing. Norman Rockwell is also associated with the golden age of illustration, which was really from 1890 to like 1930, a little bit, maybe 1940, pushing it in the U.S. But Dame Laura Knight is certainly associated with this period and with this style in the United Kingdom. Very, very, very well-known artist. This is called On the Rocks. This is another really beautiful piece called The Guardian. I mean, it's just, how do you describe something like this? It's just so extraordinary, isn't it? Joss, you're making a little bit too much noise, okay, honey? Bring it upstairs if you can't stop.
Around the house to pass time of my
But you're making too much noise, so you have to run around like in a horseshoe rather than a circle. This reminds me of something. Maybe it's Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It is extraordinary, though, isn't it? Look at that emerald green lake in the back. It does have a real Irish look, although I would think it might be an English setting. The Guardian. That's all there is to know about it, unless you research it, of course. This next piece is called the Cornish Coast. So this would have been right in Diane's sweet spot because she lived on the Cornish Coast in Penzance. I think this is so beautiful, that look of the kind of schoolgirl, right? The schoolgirl of that era. Such a moment in time. Beautiful scenery. Very, very stark. Very, very illustrative quality, doesn't it? I mean, it's fine art and it's painterly, but you can see this being an illustration for a book easily. It would work super, super well. And let's see, and this is the last one I have of hers. I think this is my favorite. This is called Bathing. I mean, it is just gorgeous. Look at all those colors. And again, this to me looks like Cornwall, the rockiness of it, the water, right, that rainbow care. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Look at her use of color. Such a master, right? The little red beret, the little green beret in the distance, a little bit of red shadowing on the rocks. Looks like there's some distant figures over the shoulder of the girl with the black bathing suit. Just beautiful. So peaceful, but also so exciting. You know, kids going swimming, things going on. Now, the next artist we're looking at is Evelyn Dunbar, and you're going to fall in love. You're going to fall in love. So, oops, wait a minute. Let me get rid of this one first. Bathing and Evelyn Dunbar. So this is a little bit different. Evelyn Dunbar was really known for something specific that we're working up to. Yeah, Aileen, the water was amazing, wasn't it? It almost looked like one of those candy rock rings, you know. This is a little bit different. This April, very, very pretty, very stylized. I just love it. Almost like fantasy character, right? But this isn't really what she's known for. Actually, I think it's, yeah, no, it is a she, Evelyn Dunbar. So Evelyn Dunbar's life was 1906 to 1960. And what she was known for is being a muralist, right? She was a painter, but she was hired to do a lot of murals. And the government hired her to do murals. And the theme was always women replacing men, you know, during the Second World War in their jobs. So women taking on roles, doing work that they were not trained to do, not prepared to do, but taking it on and doing it successfully and in earnest. So recurring themes about how women adapted to their new role, having to fill this huge hole while the men were just not there. So looking at some of her work, I mean, these are just, I have a lot. I went crazy, but I just want to flip through them for you because I think that they are extraordinary. Let me turn this one down. And again, I'm going to do like something of a slideshow because there's a lot and I couldn't choose, so I just put them all in. You see the very stylized look. This is super mid-century British look, right? It is the modern look, but it's not really expressionism. It's not really fauvism. It really, the British School of Art had a completely different look that was very sharp and angular, very sketch driven, big heavy dependency on shadows, and also leaving blank spots, right? You can see either the paper or the canvas behind. This is all sort of signature stuff from this period. This is a beautiful piece. It looks like they're sewing uniforms or repairing uniforms or doing something with the uniforms, right? And some of them are in uniform. I think this one's extraordinary. I mean, this is just an extraordinary image, isn't it? I don't know what's going on here. You might know better than I. I mean, they're obviously up in the trees. Something must be happening. What would you be doing in these skeletal trees in this season? And if you know, let me know, because I'm like vacant on this subject. But what I love about it is the position of the women. That one woman going in with a ladder that looks like a battering ram. Another woman up high in the tree. Look at the shape of her body, right? The tail of her coat, a little bit military, a little bit like a riding coat. The softness of the kerchief on the woman that's going in on the ground, right? That red kerchief is so soft and pretty. It's a bit of prettiness with these military colored jackets. Look at the way that this landscape is laid out. Look at the distant woman standing on the top of the ladder, just where the commercials tell you to never stand or you'll fall and die. She's right at the top, like a silhouette, like a dancer, right? Like a statue. It is so extraordinary, this piece. I just don't know. I just don't know what to say about it. I need to read more about Evelyn Dunbar for sure. Probably Pruning the Trees. Okay, well, that makes sense, because I guess you would want them to be the same shape year after year, kind of a thing. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's not like there's any fruit on the trees. It is a beautiful idea because you're able to look through the trees and see their bodies. Farm girls. Beautiful. Yeah, you're probably right, Mom. That one really strikes me. This is another one that is just beautiful. Look at these women hauling like heavy haystacks, right? Just all women. These are all women in here. Just these heavy shapes. It looks like hard work, doesn't it? It's just beautiful. Here is Pruning Trees. Yep, I think you all are right. I was thinking, do you need to prune the trees in the middle of a war? But I guess life goes on, right? Beautiful triangle that was. It was. Now look at the sort of repeating motif here. You've got people in the distance, almost like an army, that are doing the exact same motion with that's a hoe, right, of the women here, with the kind of fishnet thing on, the kerchief on. I mean, this is the British version of the Rosy Riveter, right? This is just beautiful. I mean, what can you say about this? Look at the way this draws your eye into the horizon, and then you see more women working out there. There's the one woman at the end of the line in front here who's facing the other way, kind of one of these kids is doing their own thing. The annual's looking for husbands, honey. pruning apples in February. Oh, pruning apple trees in February, like roses, to make more blooms. Oh, interesting. Okay, see, I don't know enough about it, and I love to learn more. No happy colors. That's a good point, Cindy. You're right. You're right. There wasn't a lot to be happy about. It's a very limited palette in every picture. But it's so shapy, isn't it? It's so shapy. There's so much of a story here. And you can see why Diane would have liked this. There's all kinds of weird, sharp shapes. There's a lot of unnatural poses, too, which is one of the things that is really signature with her work, too. This is a real pretty one. They seem to be setting tables, right? Getting ready for a meal and standing in line. This one is a bit looser, more casual. Joan also says, trees are pruned in winter when dormant. All right, see, I'm learning. Remember Macintosh apples? Never see them anymore. Oh, I do remember them. I do. Do you never see them anymore? That's sad. I remember those were super tasty. Let's see what this one is. So pretty. So pretty. I'm going to flash through. I put a bunch of these in here. Yeah, this one is a crazy one, isn't it? I mean, look at the amount of hauling. It's really making the point, isn't it? A story about the women doing the men's work. It's really making the point. Knowing that these were government commissioned murals, they don't, at least I didn't pull up names for them. They're probably all parts of a larger mural, and they're not standalone pieces. So it would make sense that they're probably collectively named one thing. But these are so evocative of that time period, and the storytelling is so, there's such realism to it. But it's also got this beautiful decorative feel. Look at this piece, also by Evelyn Dunbar. Isn't that extraordinary? It's not like the ones that we were looking at by any means. Come to Canada, lots here. Oh, really? The Macintosh apples, Aileen. I just love this image so much. And I think this is the last Dunbar, but this is my favorite. Because I can't tell, maybe you can tell, because I think you're looking at the image bigger. It looks like they're doing, welcome back, baby.
I'm going to leave in a minute.
Okay, it looks like they're doing something to do with rug making or repair, or it's something with the textile, obviously, but I can't get any closer than that. I just love this piece. I love these big rolls of material. It's so interesting, isn't it? What do you think they're doing, Jess?
Ooh, wait, what did you say at the beginning?
Well, I didn't know if they were, I don't think they're making a rug because it seems to be complete. And there's the same textile in the other room. Maybe they're repairing it?
Ooh, yeah, it kind of looks like they're repairing it.
Yeah, maybe they're repairing
Very
it.
interesting, actually.
Super interesting. But let's move on to the next artist. The next artist is Jenny Jones. She's a contemporary artist. You might recognize her work. She was born in.
I recognize that name.
Yeah, well, Jenny Jones. That's a good name, right? She was born in Norfolk in 1954, and she was brought up in Shropshire. She went to school in Hertfordshire, and then left school. Sorry, I'm reading what I wrote, and it's hard. For Florence for 5 months to study painting. So she really went on to a sort of trajectory of becoming a painter early on. But her work is quite, I mean, I recognize it because I know I've picked up postcards and greeting cards with her work on it. But I think it is just stunning. And again, this is one of Diane's favorite artists. Jess, don't make too much noise, honey, please. Isn't that one great with the two cats? And that beautiful vase of flowers, it's so green. This is very Matisse, too. To do a vase with like the curtains, like almost theatrical curtains parted behind it. This is a big Matisse device. But yeah, the expressions here, even the expressions on mending a rug, Joan, that makes a lot of sense. The expression on the cat's faces, so good, isn't it? I thought this was adorable too. I thought that would appeal. You know, we love our sheep and chickens and all the farm animals. So beautiful. It looks like later in the day, hugging her chicken there. And this one's very different. This is a newer one to the ones I showed you, but still a Jenny Jones. I thought this is just cool. See something different that she's done. And this artist just really kills me. This is Richard Adams. And again, one of the artists that Diane names. These are so cool. I put a bunch of these in, so I'm going to flash through them. But if you're interested, look up Richard Adams later. These are so cool. I mean, that is like a curiosity shop image, right? And I know I've bought his, like when I was in England, packs of greeting cards and things like that, because there's so much to see. They'd make great puzzles too, right? They might be puzzles. But you see the architecture, you see so much happening in these stories. Diane loved things that were very English, didn't she? I mean, her taste was very English. This one is so different. There's a crazy story going on in the background, almost comical, but so beautiful. He grew up in a Ukrainian farm village. Oh, interesting. Richard did? Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Well, that's relevant too. Now, this is really cool. What's going on in the sky with that white thing? Is that like a blimp or something up there? Like mine is like a thumbnail, but I love this scene. I love the animals in the carriage it has. I don't know if there's collage going on here, but it looks very collagey with the pigs, the geese, the cats, the dogs, all in baskets, and in the far back, the chickens. It looks like the guy right by the house, the door, you know, with that white awning, has got something, but I can't tell what it is. Oh, there's goats or sheep on the far right. Everybody's pushing something different. I think these are just extraordinary. Isn't that beautiful? This reminds me, I'm such a pedestrian here, but this reminds me of Shrek a little bit. Absolutely love a little bit. It's a donkey. What can I say? I'm pretty lowbrow. Oh, it's her clouds. There we go. That solves that problem because look at this. It's the clouds. Interesting. Oh, Matisse did. Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense. And I should remember that from doing that shop on Designing Like Matisse. Things go in one ear and out the other with me, I'm afraid. This is a great image. These look like mermaids, I think, in the water, right? With like little starfish hats and stuff. Really cool. Castle in the distance. Oh, it's so cool. It looks like a little kiln over on the right. Really pretty. So these are the images that Diane would have looked at, would have loved, would have collected, probably would have taped up around her house, right? This is just right up her alley for design. Isn't that gorgeous? I think that one's my favorite. Nice winter scene with the dogs bouncing around. Look, they look like what, Airedales or wire hair terriers. This is a beautiful image too. The ivy color covered pub. I have this as a little print. I remember I bought this years ago as a little print. Dirigibles. You know, they could be dirigibles, but I think they're clouds. I think because it's in this picture too. I think his style is just to do these very I was going to say weird, very signature clouds, right? Because they're there too. See up in the sky. This is beautiful. I love the nude in this one too, and I love the woman way up close, having her ice cream. The woman again, the very unnatural body poses. Going back to Diane, right? Look at the woman standing up. Very unnatural. The woman laying down, beautiful. The woman standing up, it's like a paper doll, but the legs and arms aren't in the right places. And again, this is something that Diane does. I love the sort of sexiness of, if this is a bathing suit, it looks like, judging from the nudity, that maybe it's not a typical beach. But there is a sort of sexiness to the orange bathing suit, right? It's just odd. It's interesting and different. It's not uptight art, is it, by any means? In another beautiful image, this looks like a pig, right? A giant pig. So that's one of the artists that she likes. And then, oh, this is the last, yeah, that's the last Adams. And then this is I think the last artist that she named. And get ready for a real shift of gears, a change of, how would you interpret these beautiful images to rug hooking? Well, the first thing would be the copyright problem, because the last two artists are still living. But besides that, I would if I were going to do it, if I was ever lucky enough to get the rights to do it, I would do them large, because these are images that there's the part of the story is the fact that there's so much going on, right? That's kind of the joke. They're not compositions in the sense that they're design driven at all. It's like a story that is like a splatter pattern, and there's people in different places and animals in different places. I think the only way that you would successfully get something like that done is really big, which doesn't really answer the question, but I think that's a good starting point, because when you think of images, for example, of Pearl McGown's, when she did like the Carrier knives, and she did them small, like 10 inches, impossible, even in a number 3, impossible to realize that kind of a design with that much detail. No, I'm good, thanks. In that scale. So I think all of them are super suitable to rug hooking, super suitable. But I think they have to be done on a huge scale. And I think what a joy it would be to be able to do them, like quite big. I mean, it would be an ongoing project. It would be a great kind of a project to be introducing British style yarn, different kinds of yarn, different textures and weights of yarn, along with wool strips and recycled materials and tweedy stuff. And, you can really see it, because the collage quality to this work, let me see. Oh, let me come back here just to finish this conversation. This artist is very complex, so you would definitely need to simplify the design. But I wouldn't want to, if I was handling someone else's work, particularly something as well known as, like, for example, this exact composition. I would simplify the stuff like in the bottom right-hand corner. That fence lends a lot of stability to the composition, right? There's a lot of busyness in some of the shapes and color change in some of the shapes that could be lifted a little bit without changing the look of it. That red roof in the distance, really, that and the fence is really providing grounding to this piece, because there's a lot going on. So in that tree that just happens to be in the gap between those lower, like more sort of yellowy green trees, smart. It's a smart use of space. These are great. These are great to transfer over. Some of them are more on the busy side, but they would all make wonderful rugs. So this is a conversation we should definitely continue. Now, as I was saying, get ready for a real shift of gears here, because this is the last artist she named. Oh no, not yet, not yet. This is Dee Nickerson. Nope. So this is the second to last, and these images are beautiful. Now, let's come back to this question, Karen. How would you? These would be perfect images to translate. I would take a lot of the detail out of them, but I would keep the main motifs in place to keep the integrity of the storytelling. But absolutely beautiful. Dee Nickerson is a contemporary artist, and there's a wonderful blog about her on a site that's called Yamas or Jamas, Jama, Jamas Alphabet Soup. And it's actually a culinary blog. It's an eclectic feast of food, fiction, and chewy culinary verse. So a mix of things. This particular blog that I got some of these pictures from is called D. Nickerson's, and that's D-E-E, Nickerson, just with an N. D. Nickerson's Lovely World, and it came out on January 28th, 2020. So this is here for you to look at in huge detail if you want to. This image, I did a bunch by her too because I think they're just gorgeous. Panoramic, right? But flat. See, these would be perfect for rug hooking. Look at how flat they are. Look at that little road on the right of the church. There's a bicyclist midway down, but there's birds positioned along it, lending a lot of patterning. Beautiful patterning here. Not just a snowfall, but you see all this holly, right? It's all jigsawed together perfectly, just for you to be able to hook just the way that they are, right? Nothing's overlapping. It's very, very flat. It has a real primitive look. So beautiful, so stark. I mean, she would be wonderful to hook. D. Nickerson. Isn't that gorgeous? And again, it's like countries in the seasons in the country, the cycle of life, the cycle of the year, a lot with dogs, and I am flashing through them, but you know you can always look later. You love that one, Cindy. I love this one of the woman sewing, just the way that her lap is curled up and the silhouette of the cat. The bunch of birds are busy in the distance and the little deer is looking at her. Such good shapes, very 1920s hair, kind of a bob. Really smart design. This one's very flat and primitive too. How interesting is this design with these very primitive looking houses, and then when you look over into the field, all of these very flat animals that again are jigsawed in. Birds, horses, cows, very lumpy animals, but none of them overlapping. All of them very primitive style, just side by side. They're creating their own pattern, right? It's not realistic at all, but it is so beautiful. Same thing with this. Look at all these sheep. And she's got these skeletal trees, real sense of the seasons in front of them. Doing some pruning here too, it looks like, and it's very, very busy. But you can see there are elements of this that you could use in your designing with the sheep in the fields and the distance. Isn't this pretty, Joss? Yeah. The skeletal trees and the birds hanging out in the trees. There's always dogs in her work. Super, super pretty. Very Charles Wysocki. Sandra, it has a huge element of that. You know, she occasionally does Wysocki's trick of stacking, right? Stacking layer upon layer, get height for more storytelling. She does a lot of that. She does a little bit of it here, showing these three women knitting. I love this image. And the dog asleep. She stacks the houses right behind. Let the dog out. Stacks the houses right behind, creating sort of an extension of the story, the comfort of their homes right near them, right? And then in the distance off to the left, that lovely enclave, just that beautiful little dip down, like a little U, showing you the picture of that house, that yard, and that little horse. Isn't that beautiful? Look at behind the bench that they're sitting on is kind of a checkered, something checkered. Maybe tiled or checkered, like it's either flat or it's like a ha-ha kind of a fence. Really, really extraordinary. Gathering holly. Oh, nice. That's probably exactly what was going on. So beautiful. I love the way she handles the seasons. This is obviously summer, not just because of their clothes, but because of that yellow green, that first green, you know, that we call it in art, the first green, that very lush green. It's different when you get further on into the summer. So pretty. This is the godlike perspective, like an aerial view, looking down a little bit. It changes the way you look at a piece when you get that godlike perspective. Speaking of godlike perspectives, I think this is called Middle Age, this one. Not all of them have names attached to them, and I found them in different places. But I thought this was just beautiful. These women flying literally through the air over their village. One of them is holding their dog. It is just so liberating and fun, isn't it? I love that one. And again, these are all D. Nickerson. I love this one too. The cat on the lap. I mean, isn't this just so peaceful, so quaint, so Diane? The skinny silhouette of that cat kind of straggly on the right. Again, the first kind of summer green, that yellow green. Oh, look at this one. This reminds me of a Vogue cover from the 1920s. Just the wind, right? The wind blowing the scarf the way that it is. The trees look like they're going sort of backwards. The fur on the dog is all upset. Very limited color palette. Such an interesting, simple design. If you were to draw this on your backing, it would look very simple and bare, wouldn't it? The skeleton tree is just reaching out to the main motif. the character and her dog, right? It's almost like it's too contrived. But then when you actually do it, you pattern it out in between, not much overlapping, with these beautiful autumn colored leaves. And you realize it's not contrived at all. It's perfection. It's perfection. There's no horizon line here. This is a very heavily patterned, almost Art Nouveau style composition. Super successful. This would be a great kind of thing to bear in mind hooking. And this is the last, very different than the last one, right? The other one was very wintry and windy. This is a woman still walking her dogs, but on a beach. And it looks like much finer weather here. I just think this is another beautiful composition. So Diane with the ocean right there. Look at the shape, right? So simple. So simple. So again, if these are people that you want to research later, this artist is called Dee Nickerson, D-E-E. And the blog that had a lot on her is called Jama's, J-A-M-A, Jama's Alphabet Soup. And this blog is called Dee Nickerson's Lovely World, this particular one. So this is what we were getting to before when I said fasten your seatbelts and get ready for something that is very different. This is the last artist that Diane names. She said she loves lots of artists, but these are the ones that came to mind when she was asked the question. This artist is Shawnee Rice James. So that's S-H-A-N-I, Rice, which is R-H-Y-S, James. She's a Welsh painter who was born in Australia, and very, very, very different body of work. So let's flash through these two. Some of her images are a bit more, very Matisse in color, absolutely. Very red, right? Like red period for forever. And, you know, some of them are a bit more stark and uncomfortable. These for me were ones that were very pattern driven. That I could see what Diane was thinking, that I felt like Diane had seen these images, and it was one of the reasons she named this artist. She gets into some family images like this that are a bit cozier, but still a little bit uncomfortable and very, very, very red palette, right? So these are real. Oops, I'm sorry. These are really different. Oops, sorry about that. This is, I think, my favorite of them. You're not seeing a lot of sort of happy, cheerful faces, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to. Why do you need to, right? Always the bird and the other animals. That's right with that last artist, Cindy. Absolutely. So, you know, I thought those were interesting. Once I looked at that list of artists who she had named, I thought this. I mean, when you love an artist, and I love Diane's work, and I know if you don't love it, you're gonna get there pretty fast. I just love her work so much, and now that she's gone, you know, you get this feeling of like urgency, almost panic that you would like. I would like to get closer to her. I'd like to find out more about her. And finding a list like this of her favorite artists that she named, that's a great rabbit hole to go down, because one way of getting very close to her is looking. She loved art more than anything, right? Looking at her favorite artists, and then thinking about how they inspired the work that she did. That we're only partway through doing, but so interesting, isn't it? It's such a gift when somebody gives you a list like that, because you can really go down deep, dig deep into all of those images and those artists' lives, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's the never-ending story. So coming back to Diane's interview, Diane was asked, "Do you have any tips for new ragruggers?" And Diane said, "My tips would be, just do it. Make sure you have a good hook that feels perfect in your hand. I prefer a pencil hook." Okay, that's like the Irish hook, the skinny one, right? If you have a problem with your wrist, try out a bent hook. So the hook part, right, not the handle, but the hook part is actually bent. Try a bent hook, as this puts less pressure on it. Have lots of fabric, lots of colors and textures. You are painting with fabric, so you need an enormous palette to choose from. Invest in a very good sharp pair of scissors, not necessarily expensive ones. Try the ones with the spring if you have wrist problems, as they're so much easier to use. I got this question the other day. Somebody said, "What scissors are you using?" in one of the videos I have, because I do use those spring ones, and they are Fiskars. So Fiskars does a nice spring that will be in all the big box craft stores and on Amazon, and it does help a lot when you cut often. Shocking, Cindy. That was a big jump with the art styles, wasn't it? And she said, get together in groups, try out group projects. She was a big one for group projects, working on the same project together. Try out group projects. It's very bonding and fun. We've made communal rugs to raffle for charity, passing them around the group, hooked pieces with particular themes. The hooking alter ego one, I'm going to show you that one, being particularly good. Pass the word around about hook-ins, demonstrate with friends, and she goes on talking about ways to socially get together, get other people interested, help other people get into it, and then it gets you more into it too, doesn't it? So then I think that was the last bit of interview that she had. That was the last question that I thought was really interesting, that was worth relaying. So then we get on to, let's just look at her gallery now. This piece I know you've seen before. This is her alter ego piece, right? So this is called actually Puss Crosby. I'm going to show you a close up of this too. But this is another one of her cutouts. Joss, look at this. Is this funny? It's a woman with like angel's wings, and she's got her apron.
No, I thought she was trying to be a peacock.
Oh, she looks a little bit like a peacock, yeah. She's got beautiful peacock boots, right? She's got peacock design, peacock feathers on her boots. And
like the wings look like peacock feathers.
You know what they do? That's interesting. Let's see what Diane said about it. Diane said, we all make our rug hooking alter egos. So she's saying this is an activity that you could do too. You take the name of your first pet. Okay, I remember this from Facebook. You take the name of your first pet you ever owned, the name of the street or road that you first lived on, and there is your hooking alter ego. So I am Candace Windsor. You have to say now what yours is. The first name of the first pet you owned and the name of the street you grew up on, and that is your rug hooking alter.
What street did we grow up on?
Well, I grew up on a different street than you because I'm 40-something years older. You grew up on, what was the name of it? It wasn't Talmastrat. What was that street?
Parkstrat.
Oh, Parkstrat. Yeah, doesn't roll off the tongue.
Parkstrat.
Yeah, Pitter Pat Parkstrat. That's not a... I wish it was better, Joss. I wish it was better. We're going to have to go for a different combo there.
I think it's all right.
It's okay. Yeah. Funny. But yeah, so this is what she came up with. And I did a little close-up of it here too because the close-up part is so cool. She used the song, was it Crosby, Stills and Nash, How Can You Catch a Sparrow, right? From, I think it's Judy Blue Eyes. Beautiful. And she's got the cat kind of tucked into either her arms or her apron pocket. Really pretty piece, right? Really tiny Johnston. Here we go. 20 Gladstone. That's funny. Clementine Hallworthy. Oh, these are great names. These are great names. Smidgen Rose. See how much fun it is?
Smidgen Rose.
Emma Acton. Oh, that sounds like a character in a book, doesn't it? They all sound like different kinds of characters, if you see what I mean. Some of them more classy than others, right? Jamie Myrtle. That's kind of cool too, Doreen. I like that. Jamie Myrtle. Isn't it funny that works?
How about the Pitter Pat, what was it?
Parkstrat.
Pitter Pat Parkstrat.
Pitter Pat Parkstrat. Yep. Cute. Love her colors. Me too. So let's look at some of her others. Puss Crosby. Now, this one's really cool. This one is called Contentment. And, she said with this Butch Orchard, Mom, that is, isn't it? Butch Orchard. She said with this one, this piece is called Contentment. Oops, wait a minute. I got some problems going on. She said she was so happy.
I've been doing this a lot.
Yeah, that she hooked this because she hooked it, right? And then when she looked back on it, she realized that all of the pets who she hooked into this picture had passed away. So she was so happy that she had, because she has a record of those 3 animals being with her there. And you see she's got her rag bag on the right, vase of flowers, her teapots that we saw in the photo, her books on rag rugging and proddy, all of that looks like a transistor radio on there. She's got kind of a scalloped lamb's tongue going right across the bust line too, which is mimicking the lamb's tongue. Very smart composition, very funny. Classic rug hooking composition. Not a lot going on here with other sort of applique or quilt application or anything like that. Really beautiful. Gus Belleville. Peppy 6th Street. These are hilarious.
Peppy Peach.
Tweety Gladstone. That makes more sense. I was going to say, Dave, you named your animal 20. Tweety Gladstone. That is super cute. Yeah, her detail is just amazing. This is just a beautiful piece. So the next piece, Clementine Hallworthy. Now I need to write a spy novel. Absolutely. That's well suited. I love this piece. This is kind of a sad piece. I'm going to come back to this at the end of the show because I have a great challenge idea for you. So this piece didn't have a title, so I called it Divorce Handbag because she said that this piece is how she felt going through a divorce. And she said, I carried all of my important things in my handbag all the time after that. So it was just one of these things that she was working through, and you can see that she hooked most of it, and she appliqued a fabric handbag on. It's sort of, again, reading into the face, suspicious kind of sad nature to it. Really beautiful, though. Beautiful piece. Strong vertical lines.
I'm going to go, and I probably won't come back.
Okay, well, it was wonderful having you, sweetie. It was wonderful having you. Divorce handbag. And then we have another handbag one coming up, and I think this one is absolutely beautiful, too. This is called, well, this isn't called, but I called this Hush handbag. Paula, what is yours? Tiny Johnston. It should be a boxer. Yeah, totally. This is just so pretty. I think you've probably seen this image too. I'm going to show you some close-ups of it. What's fantastic about this, it's another sort of cutout. It's a shaped rug hooked piece with quilt applique. So her entire skirt, right, inside the outer coat, is a hexi quilt, right? Is an antique hexagon quilt. And I'm going to show you. That's like a pieced quilt. Cicero, Beulah. How funny, Jill. Cicero, Beulah. That's a tough one. And this is like, she's got secrets in the handbag, right? Because it says hush on it. So let's take a look at that closer up. And this is not in good focus in the photo itself. But you can see a little bit of a close-up of the did I do that? Mom loves it when I say that. You see the quilt pieces? I don't know if you can see my cursor. You probably can't, but that underskirt there is like all hexagon quilts pieced together. A beautiful old quilt that she's, she collected a lot of old textiles, antique textiles, vintage stuff, saved it, either repaired it or used the parts that she could use. But I love the idea of having a secret in this handbag. That is a big to be continued for us tonight. This next one is called, I called it Rayburn Stove. She just said she referred to this as Stitching by the Rayburn, her favorite place. So Rayburn, I guess, is the brand of stove, right? That says a little Rayburn on it, stitched on. And this has a variety of things in it. Beautiful skin tone again, beautiful. There's like an earring coming down. There's this sort of angel skin coral hair happening, right? Lots of different textures in the hair. The woman is sitting doing handwork. It brings to mind the stories she told, the memories of her family and the women in her family. This quilt in the background that's kind of pieced with a flower pot, a checkerboard, much more folky, right? All different kinds of elements in there. A lime green teapot, just beautiful. The print on her dress is kind of a cat's paw. So there's quite a few references to rug hooking in this. But it is a beautiful domestic scene, very peaceful, very easy to look at. This is another beautiful rug. This is the one I used for the thumbnail the other day. And she just basically said of this that this was just about a couple of women chatting about a rug that they had finished. Which again brings to mind the fact that she loved to do group projects and to hook in groups. And that sometimes included, like it did in the old days for her, ancestors and family members, hooking on the same rug together at the same time. So that happened often, just joining together and working different sides of the frame. Was something that was very, very common. So this is like a hat tip to that. This is a very rug hook oriented piece with the lamb's tongues on the sides, right? Just absolutely beautiful. Admiring the rug. And the rug itself is Prati, which is that beautiful historic style of rug making. Joss, take the pigs in the blanket away because Buttons is going to have like a aneurysm. And again, that Matisse patterning, right? If you look in the back, what do you think the chances are that she actually had swirls on one wall and like tiger stripes on the other? It's pretty much zero, isn't it? But in this composition, they go really well together. And remember that she is using found material. She's not using the dog's on the table. Seriously? Seriously, Buttons? He's like actually on the dining table. That's how crazy he is for pigs in a blanket. Because she was using found materials, she probably always had it in the back of her mind and was quite comfortable with it since she preferred working this way, that she wouldn't know necessarily when she was going to run out of something or how much of something she had if she had like a big vision. So she was probably very happy to work in this patterning style because you only need small amounts of everything. And as long as you're comfortable and flexible working like that, life is good, right? You're not going to have any big tragedies. Oh, Lisa, good to see you. Do you know how large her rugs are? You know, I wish that I had written that down now. Catalina, I did because I looked at it on all of the thing, but I didn't write it down, and I should have. That is a big miss on my part. I'm sorry about that. On that blog, the Ragged Life blog that I got the interview off of, they had all of the measurements on there for her rugs. My memory is that most of them are 20 something, 30 something largest measurement. They're not huge. The figure ones, the people ones, are bigger. But my memory of the smaller ones is they're not huge pieces at all. They're, wall hangings. I think when she talks about putting rugs down, I think she's usually talking about her Prati rugs. Because I didn't see any kind of evidence in reading about her that she put pictorial rugs on the floor. I think she really considered her picture art to be wall art and her Prati rug making to be floor art. Not that that answers the question, but I think there's going to be a big difference. But the pieces that we're looking at in general with characters 20s to 30s is what I saw the most of. So let's see. Where were we at? Chatting with T. Now, what is... Okay, wait a minute. Let me get past those because then I had the Alice rugs in. Okay, and I already showed you those. So I have to come down. I screwed up. I have to come down to some that we missed. Hang on. Bear with me. I don't know how these got out of order. I'm telling you. I did so well today putting these in order for so long. Let's look at some of our other images. These are some of the ones of women. We looked at Granny Angel, right? Yeah, we looked at Granny Angel. So our next image was this. It's called Reading Woman. I think this is my favorite. I absolutely love this piece. I'm going to bring you in real close to this one too. Now, we have had this conversation before. I don't think she's working on a dummy board. And if you don't know what a dummy board is, it simply means that you have, for example, best way to describe, you often see around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, for example, like a turkey, right? And it's rug hooked and it's cut out and it's attached to a wooden board. And traditionally, people would use these boards, which are called dummy boards, in front of the fire, right? Not while the fire was going, but just like decorative in front of the fire. And you could leave them up all year round. And some people would make, pretty vases and things like that. But they were often shaped. And we've had this conversation often in the past about what kind of wood to use. I think somebody said something about pressurized wood. Feel free to chime in if you remember. I don't remember because I haven't done a dummy board yet. But it got people talking about when you do a hooked rug that is shaped and you want to mount it onto a piece of wood, what happens, right? This comes up because you can't just, it seems like you could just staple it or attach it to it or glue it to the, carefully, not the hooked part, to the back of a piece of wood, but you really can't attach it to any piece of wood because the gases that get stuck between the hooked rug, which is dense and made of like protein material, and the wood can rot it. So that has to be thought out and considered too. And if anybody has any comment about that, put it into the thread so we can talk about that. Because a lot of Diane's images really evoke the idea of a dummy board. And you might be looking at them going, I think I'm going to do my alter ego, and I want her to be a cutout, so I would like her to be on a dummy board just so she's easy to display and have about, right? And what a cool idea that is. So if you want to chime in on that, I could really use the help. It would take forever to go back to the coffee times and figure that out. I love this Reading Woman. So let's come a little bit closer in and see some of the details. So she's reading a book that's called A Woman's Place. And I just think this is so cool. Oh, wait a minute. Was that the last page? Am I missing any of my commentary here? I think I'm missing page 5 now.
There were 4 pages.
All right. Then I screwed something up. That's right. Buttons, shut your hole. Oh, Sue, it's good to see you. So this is a close-up. And again, you're seeing, look at these mixed colors in the hair. From a distance, it looked dark, just dark, right? And it read as a brunette. But when you look at it close up, my word, look at it. It's all of these crazy colors, thick, 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 like boucle type wool, very thick, soft, almost roving wool, right? Crazy. Another heavy eyelid. This is like a signature thing. Really beautiful. That rouged cheek. Again, a signature look for Diane. And the position of the head on the neck, think about the paintings that we just looked at. It's not exactly natural. She's putting so many colors of gray and red in, and yet it's working. You know, this is like, okay, he's going to have to go if he's doing that because I'm doing a show right here. Sorry, I get so edgy. I get edgy. I also love the sort of fabric collar, right? That's just flat fabric that's been applied. Now, Catalina, I think you asked the question. To me, this looks like this is applied on top of the rug hooking. Maybe not, but it looks like it is because it looks like it flaps out and over. Just cool. And certainly the label to the book is appliqued. She probably wrote the title on there like with a fabric pen. And I have yet another reading woman. The skirt. I mean, isn't this gorgeous? The patterning in the skirt is just incredible. The pockets that are applied, that's the same material as the collar. Just love this. When you've got your colors laid out and you're thinking, I would like to use these 75 colors. I wonder if it's too much. Sometimes it's not too much. Sometimes it's just right, right? And isn't that liberating to Suze, to feel like I can use my 75 colors. They're going to work together because you have them all laid out on the table and you're thinking, what in the world? I don't want to break them up. I want to do something with all of them. Well, look at this. This completely works. And get ready for the real prestige, right? If you thought that this was a color pop already, this is the base. This is what makes me think of a dummy board, right? Because it's like, this is just perfect for a dummy board. It's bottom heavy. This is so beautiful. I think that's a needlepoint cat, like needlepoint or cross stitch cat with all of these kind of applique layers, collage layers of whole flowers that have been cut out of different fabric prints, like cotton prints, right? Just big pieces cut out, layered on. Looks like she might have outlined some. It's just beautiful. Unreal color combinations. Absolutely. Oh, Paula, you've been following. This is your first Friday. Oh, I'm so happy that you're there. I'm so happy you're there. I'm sorry about all the background noise. Whew, almost daylight saving time. But, you know, this also reminds me of, and I talk about Kay Fassett a lot. We're going to have to sooner or later do some episodes on him, and I would love to because he's one of my idols too, and I saw him in Amsterdam. He was like a psycho when I saw him. But, you know, this kind of, certainly the colors, right? Certainly the browns, the oranges, the pinks, and the greens. That's the very colors of, now that I think about it, wait a minute, how much of a psycho stalker am I? The browns, the yellows, the pinks, and the greens. Very Kay Fassett. But I just love the collage quality of this base, and I love the proportions of this piece. Now this piece, I'm going to give you some crazy background here. You know that I'm such a big pig for historical context, and there's so many sort of little hidden things that Diane does that are very sort of Anglophile kind of crazy things for an outsider like me. So when she did that Reading Woman piece that we've been looking at, she said that she was inspired by the line of Persephone books. Now, this is like an odd reference, but it really struck me because I am also in love with Persephone books. I have a ton of them. So I wanted to show, because this is a thing, right? This is a thing. Plan a trip to England. I'll go with you. This is a thing. These are reprints of, if you remember from like the 70s, 80s, the Virago reprinted a lot of the classic women's British novels that were a little bit less known, that were a home run out of the park. There was hundreds of them. I think I got the entire collection. I think I got every single one. Persephone did it more recently. So this is what Persephone's look like. Let me get this down. I just want to show you because this is Diane's world too. So Persephone first came out with these, right? So I got like all of these when I lived in England. It was like 15, 20 years ago. So these all came out with gray covers, and it looked not too interesting, but when you opened them, the kind of end papers were beautiful, like patterned papers of fabric patterns from the middle century British. So like Liberty patterns and things like that. It was beautiful on the inside, very plain on the outside. And then they kind of shifted to doing this picture cover, which was maybe more appealing in bookstores, right? But these are found in every bookstore, and they are a really big deal, the Persephone books. Of the Persephone books, I'm going to highly recommend. I'm going to give a shout out to my two absolute favorites. This isn't the Persephone cover, but one of the Persephone books, one of the first ones they put out was Greenery Street by Dennis Mchale, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Super sweet, funny, charming story about a young couple who are getting married and buying an apartment in the center of London, and they have no money. And it is so funny, and it is so sweet. And all of Dennis Mchale's books are so sweet. And my absolute all-time favorite, I think, book in general, this is the Persephone book. It's called High Wages by Dorothy Whipple. This is the book that got me interested in the history of department stores. The girl in this book works at the equivalent of a department store in a small English city in the north. It's a very funny slash drama, really beautiful. But look at the cover of this book, right? Persephone did a lot of different styles. The cover of this book, this is one of their picture covers, is a print, and it's taken from this, inspired by this garment, right? How cool is that they would do that? They do stuff like this all the time with their book covers. Really cool stuff. They're all books that were, please spell Persephone. Yep, that's it. That's it, Karen. You got it. And when you Google them, you'll see there are stores that are just devoted to Persephone, like in England, mostly in London, because it's like, it's all books. But they are all titles that are big emphasis on interwar and post-World War II. They're not contemporary titles, but they're almost 99% female writers, and dramas. They're not light books, but many of them are comedies, dark comedies, like British style humor and interest, right? Very British voice, but really beautiful. Some of them very lighthearted, others a bit more tear-jerky and heavy. But beautiful line of books. You can't go wrong, and you can look them, all of the Persephone books up online, because they're also on Amazon, right? You can look them all up on Persephone's website, and you can click on each title, and it tells you what it's about, and it puts it into context, right? This is probably why Diane loved this too, because you can click on it, and it tells you who the author is, what other books they wrote, like Dorothy Whipple. She was like considered a moralist writer. So like all of her stories, there were always very loose characters in it for that day and everything, but there was always kind of a moral. It wasn't like preachy or anything like that. There was always very bad things going on. But it gives you an overview of what the author was like or what part of England they were from, and really, really highly recommend. I know winter's over, and maybe you're looking for beach books, but really cool. Crafter's Grimoire. Does anyone remember Jennifer House in Great Barrington, Massachusetts? Was that a store, Jennifer House? Jennifer House. Or is it a person, Jennifer House? Interesting. Oh, I like that. Let's do to be continued. Somebody give me more info on that. That is a huge question mark in my mind. Jill says you love that you can use 75 colors. Well, you can if you're going to do a dummy board of who is your character, something Beulah. That's not a bad idea, is it? That's not a bad idea. All right, let's come back over here and keep going with what we're doing. I wonder if I have more stuff. Do I have more stuff, or is that it? That might be it. Can you give me the picture of the you-know-what that you just scanned? Yeah, it's coming to the end of our time, too. I'm just checking to make sure that I didn't miss any images. Did I do that? Did I get through all of those images tonight? So, I did. Da, da, da. All right. So, thank you. This is what I was thinking. Brainstorm, group project, right? So, I was thinking about Diane, obviously, and I was thinking about motifs that are throughout, right? Themes that we see throughout her work. And let's brainstorm them. So I'm going to say, I think of the teacup. She often uses a teacup or a teapot. You name some. I know that there's a pause. We sewed clothes for catalog. So clothes for catalog. Oh, catalog business. Oh, it was a catalog business. Oh, you're kidding. Jennifer House. Oh, interesting. Oh my gosh, I would love to know more about that. Very old-fashioned. I think we sold to men. Oh my gosh, I would love to know more about that. I wonder if there's any sort of crossover, nice historic contextualized thing we could do to cross over into a pattern. Or I wonder if the fabric is there fabric that's still around that maybe we could think about using Diane's style and collaging onto a rug hooked piece. Now this is to be continued, right? The theme thing. But this just made me think about the way that Diane uses quilt fabric, and it's not really quilt fabric, is it? Because she didn't buy fabric, but cotton prints. Let's just say cotton prints. In my mind, I'm thinking K-facet, but I was thinking that anyway. So cotton prints, but I'm also thinking like Liberty prints, like their department store Liberty, that beautiful beamed department store in the center of town, right behind Oxford Street. beautiful line of fabrics, historically like lightweight lawns and things that they were known for, and their florals, so beautiful. If you had something like Jennifer House, it's something that had like fabric, or even fabric from a shirt or fabric from something like that, but fabric from a local mill, fabric from a specific line that you liked. I'm thinking of the calicos and things from the 80s that I love that were all dusty rose and peacock blue. Special fabrics like that. Those would be great things to think about how to collage onto your pieces the way that Diane did. I'm going to try to challenge you to do the handbag. We're coming back to the handbag. I'm about to challenge you to do a Diane style piece, right? I will make it official like this coming week, but I'm just planting the seed now and hoping that it grows. I'm challenging you to do a Diane style piece. And it doesn't matter what your technique is. It doesn't matter how you how or what you apply onto your hooking or your punching, or how much of it is hooked or how much of it is punched. You just saw all of those images of things that she did. You saw a whole catalog of art that she saw, she was inspired by. I'm going to challenge you to do a piece in the style of Diane, because what did she do? Let's answer the question again and again. She was constantly tapping into her feelings, things that she wanted to resolve. Her husband waking up with no eyesight in one eye, a divorce. She was constantly tapping into things that were painful and working through them with design and making, right? She just sewed right through all of that. So I think that's one of the themes. Let me see what you all said. Made Madras. Oh, don't get me started on Madras. Don't get me started, because you can't imagine how much I've collected. I am nuts when I see it. Mattresses like that, very big sort of window pane, big scaled plaid, and it often comes in delicious colors like mustard yellow, fuchsia, really bright colors, right? Unexpected colors, and it's a nice lightweight cotton weave. Beautiful. Beautiful for hooking into latch hook backing, even more than cloth backing, right? Because chances are it would want to unravel if it could. We're onto something here. I'm going to have to check out Jennifer House. We're really onto something here. I wonder if it's something that you could find on eBay or something like that, because I would love to do a piece with Madras from that company, because I love Great Barrington. I love Great Barrington. Boy, that just got me going. Interesting. That might be my Diane piece. Now that I'm stealing the idea. Aren't I awful? I'm joining you in the idea. It was such a good idea. I'm piggybacking. K Facet has a yarn line too. I didn't know that, Cindy. Really? So Jennifer House comments, Great Barrington Mass shops included antique stores. Oh, Mom, did you go there? Did you go there with Dad? I've never heard this. Okay, you might find retirees around there. It was in the late 80s. Oh, man, now it's a shopping mall. Oh, man, wild patterns and backgrounds. Oh, cats and birds. Oh, okay, so these are things that you're naming. Okay, cats and birds, wild patterns and backgrounds. These are all good. These are very solid. Very, very good. Cats, birds, animals, pets, wild backgrounds that don't match. These are all biggies. Oh, Cats Gallery, good to see you. Text. So Sandra said text. So she uses a lot of text in her work. Sometimes she hooks it. Sometimes she embroiders it. Sometimes it looks like she attaches a piece of fabric and uses a fabric pen to just write it. So she does many different things, right? 1N. I'm going to look up Jennifer House. Believe me. Please, I raised my daughter. Oh, really? I just looked it up online. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to go down that rabbit hole. So these are all great things that really are associated with the look that we just saw. Very personal too, very colorful. One of the other things that I thought about that we saw in a few of her pieces was a handbag. And we saw it in the divorce handbag, and we saw it in the hush handbag, right? Her bag of secrets that she was holding down by her side that said shh on it or hush on it. I like the idea of a piece with a handbag. I like the idea, she loves her pockets in her handbags, right? But I love the idea, I drew this handbag earlier and just scanned it. I love the idea of the handbag because there's so many things, there's so many possibilities of what could be inside of it, of what could be written on it, of what it symbolizes. So we had a house on June Mountain. Oh man. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad. It seems like it was meant to be because I've had it in the back of my head that I would do something with Madras like as soon as it got to be summer again because it's such a summer material. Like everybody's got shirts and shorts with it, right? In fact, I went to the flea market here in Connecticut last year and the guy had a bunch of Madras plaid on a rack, the flea market seller. And as I was coming up the aisle looking at all these colors of fuchsia, somebody bought them all right there, like a man who seemed to want to wear them. And I thought, what are you going to wear these things? This is craft material. Not really. They were beautiful shirts, but I was super upset. That was really bad timing. And then I stalked eBay for a while looking for the exact same ones and couldn't find them. Really nice idea. We planted those daffodils. Oh, oh, how nice. I'm looking at the side conversation. So I'm going to be putting up a challenge this week in ribbon candy hooking. Um, and I'm going to articulate it better. But it's going to be the Diane Cox Handbag Challenge. And I'm going to put this little template up, right? I'm going to make this available on our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. Also put it on Ribbon Candy Hooking so you can find it. I'll put up a blog and I'll say, here, we're not finished with the Van Gogh yet, right? We're having overlapping ones. We're still doing Van Gogh. I'm still doing my Van Gogh. There's still Van Goghs out there. But I'm just putting up another challenge with no end date in sight, right? Just to get going. But I like the idea of doing the Diane Cox Handbag Challenge because, and you don't have to do this handbag. She didn't do this exact handbag. In fact, one of her handbags was like a U handbag that looked like it had one big strap. And the one inch was a very round handbag, almost like a drawstring with like a loopy handle. So different rugs, different handbags. But I just did this one, and you could do any. But I thought, what a cool thing to be, because sometimes it's easier to be given an assignment than to think of something on your own, right? I remember that from school, and I still live that. But what a cool thing to have an idea in mind. Like, how am I going to use that handbag? What's inside? There's a whole story there, and yours would be different than everybody else's, right? So I'm going to put this up, but it's something to start thinking about, this handbag challenge, because I thought it would be really nice. Diane's style is so different. It's so colorful. It's so personal. A handbag's very personal too, isn't it? I mean, the last thing, when you're out in the world, as soon as you leave your house, if you're a woman or sometimes a man, the last thing that you would want to lose is your handbag, right? Because this is like your lifeline. This is your link to identity. Like everything in here is an important card, isn't it? Your phone and so it is a really personal item for us. So I haven't thought of mine yet, and now this Jennifer House thing has got me going. But I'm going to think about it more over the weekend, and maybe you will too. I'm going to put it up, and we'll develop it a little bit. We can develop it together. But I thought it would be cool to try to do something that had to do with Diane because she did pass last year, and it was something that didn't come to my attention until much later, and there's very limited information on her out there. So, it was hard to try to get a show together. Tonight, I think we did it. I think we nailed it tonight, looking at many of her pieces, and there's a lot more pieces out there. But there's not a lot of centralized information on her, which needs to be fixed because she really was extraordinary, an extraordinary voice, an extraordinary amount of work, body of work, absolutely beautiful. We are to hook. Paula, a composition that includes a handbag. So, for example, it could be like a city scene and somebody's carrying it, or people sitting at a cafe and it's down at the foot of the chair, or it's an interior scene and maybe there's somebody on a couch and the handbag is little and tiny and it's by the door or on a knob or on a coat rack or something, or maybe it's in the kitchen and someone's making coffee and the handbag is on the kitchen counter and the day is just starting out. Maybe the cat is dipping his hand into the handbag, or maybe something is sticking out of the handbag, like a loaf of bread or something, and someone's at the stove. There's anything. It's unlimited things that you could do. Maybe it's lost. Maybe it's a pattern, like an Andy Warhol. There's just handbag after handbag. It could be anything. It could be completely out of context. Maybe it's like a creepy mystery, and there's a river, and there's like a handbag floating on it, like something bad happened. Could be anything. But that'll be the fun of it, is to think about what it could be. So yeah, I'm still thinking about it myself. That'll be my 3:15 thought tonight. So anyway, I had so much fun with you tonight. It was so much fun looking at Diane's work. It was so much fun looking at the work of those British artists who she loved. I only knew, I think, 2 of them. The rest of them were new to me, and I'm very happy that I know those names now, because when I have more time, I'm really going to be looking for books on art that include those artists because they really are extraordinary images. Really interesting. Different rabbit hole. As soon as we talk about an artist from a different place, even though it's just England, we go down a different rabbit hole, don't we? And that's because her life was so different. Her world was so different. And I think for her, another thing that is really kind of in common that you get a sense of in her pieces is a sense of place, right? She does mostly interiors, but somehow when I found out that she was from Penzance, like in Cornwall, because it's kind of like, I mean, it's a big vacation area, as you can imagine, because that's where people can surf, and it is the English Riviera and all that stuff. But I was not surprised. It made sense to me that she would be there because it is so colorful and almost like the British version of tropical, right? So there's a big sense of that color-wise in her work too, like where she's from in her place. That could be something that you think about where you're from. What colors are associated with the place that you're from? What kind of energy, color-wise, is associated with your world, right? Because that is a big part of her world. Great Britain History. GreatBritainHistory.org is a blog with an article about Jennifer House. Oh, GB, Great Barrington. Great Barrington. Oh, I'm going to have to get on there. That sounds really fun. That sounds really fun. And my mom says, great fun, lots of inspiration. Oh, thanks, Mom. Well, I'm going to see my mom tomorrow because finally, tomorrow, I turned 50 on Monday. It was not my best day. I flipped my flipper big time. But yeah, as soon as it was Tuesday, I felt okay again. Then I had all these doctor's appointments because I'm falling apart, and it's probably all stress related. But hopefully I make it. Half joking, but yeah, tomorrow I finally get to, after I give the talk, the Alice Butler talk in the morning to the Guild, get to head over to my mom's with my sister's house, just the girls, and celebrate my 50th birthday because we haven't done that yet. Get to open my presents and all that stuff, and go to the sushi restaurant. I know I see more blue alcohol on the horizon, Mom, and some sake. It'll be very, very nice. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's maybe we won't say it's like my birthday celebration or say the word 50 or anything like that, because not just because of getting older or because of vanity or anything like that, but turning 50 for some reason, it was more of like I got like hit by a truck with thoughts of what was still happening and what was gone, like who was gone, my dad being gone, Aunt Joan being gone, who's just not there anymore, and thinking about holidays and birthdays and getting together and summer vacations and what things are just over, right? Because I'm 50, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 15, 20, I'm not even 30, I'm not even 40. I'm 50. I'm 50. But you get these bigger thoughts that are much heavier thoughts than do I still look pretty? It's like, oh my God, you think about the things that will never happen again versus the things that are yet to come, and it doesn't always balance the way that you want it to on these big landmark numbers, And I think those are the things that get in your head more than I get fatter and uglier every day, which I do. Those are the things that get in your head. It's really hard to get them out again. Oh, I'm so glad Crafter's Grimoire. I'm energized too by Jennifer Rose. I'm super energized. Joan. I think we will by accident. Oh, thank you so much, Gail. Thumbs up, please. Think about Diane over the weekend. Do some research if you feel like it. If you have time, go down some rabbit holes. Think about a handbag, where it would be, when it would be, why it would be, what's inside of it, what it could mean, right? It's such a good symbol. And I will be back to you on Monday. Will I be back to you on Monday? A flag is going off in my head, but I will be back to you on Monday. Something else is happening Monday, but I will be there with you. Of course I will, because Monday is the giveaway for the Tamara Pavich book, which is very Diane Cox rich, as well as many other artists. So make sure you get onto that video, make your comment about how long you've been rug hooking or rug making, or even if you haven't yet, say that, and that will automatically enter you to win one of 3 copies of that book, which will be beautiful. Then you could read about Diane and have all these pictures, almost like a playbill to a really great show, right? So I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Oh, hey, Wendy. Great inspiration. Me too. I hope I have another 50 to go. Let me tell you one sort of anecdote on our way out. I said to Rob, Alice Butler, the nephew, I was saying, when we were going back and forth this week, I said, I turned 50 on Monday and I lost it a little bit. And he said, welcome to the club. And he said, oh, my wife just turned 50 too. And he said, think about Vic, right? Vic, the son who designed with Alice, the mom. He said, Vic died at 94. And he said, you can't imagine how much living he did in those last 44 years. So in other words, from the time he was 50, the time he passed away, he said, you can't imagine how much living he did. And he said, let it be an inspiration. So I use that as one of the lines. I think it's the very last line in my PowerPoint presentation tomorrow because I'm not doing it in person. Let it be the inspiration. And it's true, because that is I could have used that on Monday. I could have used that on Monday. But anyway, better late than never, right? So have a great weekend, everybody. Oh, Grandma, not Rubenesque. Yes. Yeah, and I went to the gym, on Tuesday, which was great. And I have not made it back since, partly because of schedule, partly because I haven't been able to stand up. I've fallen down the stairs, I don't know how many times, because my legs don't work. I'm so stiff and I'm in so much pain. I'm always sore after the gym. This is something else. I feel like I was probably from stress so tight that when I exercised and had to secretly compete with everybody else in the class, like weightlifting for the first time in 2 years, I haven't been able to sleep. Like, I've been waking up 100 times at night because I'm in pain while I'm asleep. So I might have overdone it. But I already feel more svelte. Honestly, I do. I feel so much better already. Like, I've already lost 30 pounds. So fingers crossed I can get back there and I don't get as hurt next time. Thank you, Cindy. And we all must be kind to ourselves, right? We all must. Amen. Well, what did my mom say? Did you say something crazy, Mom? I missed it. Never fat enough. Get fatter and uglier every day. I do. But that's changing. I'm gonna put it in reverse. I'll see you all Monday. Have a great weekend. Let me know how it goes. If you want me, I'm at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Otherwise, I will see you at Monday. Good luck for that giveaway. Put your comments on there and be thinking about those Diane